Mr. Singh knows politics. If somebody says, I'm a preacher, vote for Mr. Singh's party along Islamic lines or along Chinese lines, you know what it means. And I am saying it should be rejected.
I could say the same thing about you. You know, Minister Shan, you've been in politics for so long, you know politics. And him not saying no Deros is a Singaporean is a calculated move. So then how would you respond to that? Because
Mr. Singh said, there was an asymmetry of information, meaning, he doesn't have the government resources. But the point is really there is an asymmetry of information. I told him. His party and Mr. Faisal Manap and the candidates know exactly what Deros told them. We don't. On Deros, there was never, in our view, a clear rejection, an unequivocal rejection.
Even the results of this election kind of are a rejection of identity politics, right? Is there a need to bring this up and really paint it as this big danger that everything can just fall apart after all these years?
First of all, therefore, it requires you to understand how we got here by being very, very watchful and alert. Where you draw the line, you keep to the line that you have drawn, and every time you cross it, even by one step, is it better that we remind ourselves the line has been crossed and say, hey, let's not cross this line.
And this episode is brought to you in partnership with the Ministry of Home Affairs. We spoke to Mr. K Shanmugam, who is the Coordinating Minister for National Security and Minister for Home Affairs, about his recent ministerial statement in Parliament about race and religion. This was recorded on 17th October 2025, and we hope you find the conversation enlightening. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about something that, we spoke about recently.
Yeah.
Also about a very important topic that was discussed in Parliament. And also the conversations that happened after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it is about a certain ministerial statement done on race and religion in politics. And we have Minister for Home Affairs, Minister Shanmugam, in front of us, who is also the Coordinating Minister for National Security. Welcome back to Yalabat.
Thank you.
Minister.
Welcome. It's been more than 2 years, right? About 2 years. About 2 years since the last time you were here. But a lot has changed since then. Congratulations on, the victory in this year's general election.
Thank you.
Have things changed a lot for you, given the portfolio of the Coordinating Minister for National Security?
Well, Home Affairs is still there. I'm very happy that the law portfolio, there is somebody else who is taking over. That's our style. After a while, Edwin Tong was my junior minister in law, and now he's taken over. So that's regeneration, as it were. My scope of responsibilities have changed a bit. Coordinating Minister for National Security, you look at things at a broader level, cross-cutting issues across ministries, and national security for the whole country, and how the different ministries work with each other. We don't replicate them. Because each ministry is specialist in doing it. Defense takes care of their issues, Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs. But there are issues that cut across ministries, and we look at them. But the ministries also look at them, so we work together in Singapore.
I see.
Yeah. And one such issue is the issue that you spoke about in Parliament on 14th October, the ministerial statement on...
I would say that issue, race and religion, is pretty much a Home Affairs issue. Because it's the way our country is structured, what is important for our stability and for us to survive as a country. So that race and religion have always been dealt with by Ministry of Home Affairs.
I see. So we're recording this a few days later, a few days after the statement was delivered. We even recorded our own podcast the day after. But if I were to ask you, how do you see the reaction? How do you feel the statement, the ensuing debate went, and general reactions a few days later?
First, the purpose of the statement. Purpose of the statement, as I said in Parliament, is really to remind ourselves, every now and then we have to remind ourselves, what are the fundamentals that underpin the stability of this country? And why is it so prosperous and peaceful and harmonious compared with many other places? It's not just based on the jobs and the economy, because you can't have a good economy, good jobs, if the country itself is not harmonious and peaceful. And you see that across the world.
Yeah.
And so one of the foundations of our stability, racial harmony, peace is the fact that our communities, we all have our separate heritage, we all have our separate ethnic identities, but we have overlaid that with a strong national Singaporean identity. So we may be Chinese, Indian, Malay, and we are proud to be so, or other races, but we're also proud as Singaporeans. And the purpose was to say this has always been important, to minimize the role of conflict in day-to-day life and try and create a harmonious state. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that we don't play identity politics. We don't bring race and religion as a way of getting votes. So to remind ourselves and to set a framework, more that it's a marker that hopefully in Parliament all MPs can agree, so that in future elections and so on, we have recently been reminded by ourselves, we've all collectively come together and agreed on this, and hopefully that can apply in the future as well. So that's the main purpose.
Yeah.
And I think based on our assessment and the people we speak with and so on, the reaction, first of all, in Parliament was everyone agreed. That is important. Second, outside Parliament, there has been a broad measure of agreement on the principles. So I think in terms of the aims, to remind ourselves, set a framework and try and make sure that what happened in the recent GE gets done better in future. I think we have moved some way towards that.
And I mean, I know there was also a follow-up clarification in Parliament about the timing, and you've explained, that this is the highest forum of the land. Parliament just sat, so I understand the timing, but now
you mean timing for the statement?
For the statement,
right.
Yeah,
understand.
Yeah. So, but what I wanted to get into, which I felt maybe watching it, and we have watched the statement multiple times, we've watched the debates, we've read the transcript.
Okay.
Yeah. But to be honest, when I watched it, I was just curious about the approach, because if I were to look at the first half of the conversation, I actually appreciated that history lesson to remind us what the fundamentals of Singapore are based on. And it's very important. And I don't think anyone can deny that. But after watching the ensuing debate, I will say that by the end of it, I felt like it took away from the first half.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the first half, it felt like we are coming together, we are looking at what has happened and what we need to think about going forward.
Right.
But what happened after that, including the debate, it felt like, okay, this is more a party versus party thing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you see, the first part, the speech was in two parts. The first part is the fundamentals, how Singapore was built, what are the bedrocks of our success, why it is important that multiracialism, multi-religious approach that Singapore takes has led to where we are, and how different we are from many other countries.
Yeah.
The second part is a reminder and a learning for all of us that race and religion was brought into the last GE. And both by parties within Singapore. There was the preacher who is based in Malaysia, and PAS by foreign parties and PAS. And there was also a question of how political parties responded to that. And during the election, we didn't want to go too much into it. We had a statement by the government saying that race and religion should be kept out and foreigners should not intervene. And the Prime Minister himself spoke about it. It was important enough, but we didn't want to go deep into it. It wasn't the time or the appropriate occasion. You need to let the emotions calm down after the GE. This was the first occasion. Our Parliament is just recently opened. The first session, the President's speech talks about the platform and the policy agenda for the government for the next, for the coming term. and the Prime Minister spoke, but we did say, presidents did say, and the Prime Minister did say in there some things about the importance of racial and religious harmony. And then the first occasion possible, which was this October sitting, 14th of October, I made a detailed ministerial statement talking about our history, reminding ourselves, all in PAP as well as opposition, as well as all Singaporeans. For me too, it's a reminder for all of us, what is the basis on which we have structured our society. The second part was, during the GEs, certain things happened and, they could have been better handled. And let's all agree that for the future, we will do it better. So it's a sort of marker. And in order to do that, you have to refer to specific incidents. So I had to refer to the 𝙤𝙤𝙣 incident. 𝙤𝙤𝙣 invited all Muslims, all Singaporeans to vote for Workers' Party's Muslim candidates, in particular Mr. Faisal Manap, because he was a better Muslim. And I think that is, not I think, it is identity politics, and it's which would ruin us. It happens elsewhere, but it shouldn't happen here. And then there was PAS, which asked, basically said Mr. Faisal Manap should be voted for because he is essentially a better Muslim. And the PAP's Muslim MPs shouldn't be trusted and so on. So we felt that these sorts of statements should be immediately rejected. The endorsements for the Workers' Party candidates should have been rejected, and should have been made clear that this is not acceptable. And I said on the PAS, after the Prime Minister came out and asked everybody to make clear their position, the Workers' Party said they reject PAS's endorsement, which was good. I said in Parliament, it will be better if in future we don't need the government to come in and say these things. Parties should just reject it themselves. On 𝙤𝙤𝙣, there was never, in our view, a clear rejection, an unequivocal rejection of the endorsement. And if you allow this, in future, somebody else can say, this person is Christian, that person is Catholic, vote for the Christian. Or this person is Buddhist, that person is a Christian, vote for the Buddhist. And do we really want to go down this route? All such endorsements should be rejected. And I said in Parliament, let's hope that in future, when these things happen, there is a clear rejection. Now, post-debate, are we in a better place? I think so. We are in a better place because in society, issues need to be talked about. And in an environment where it is possible to have responsible speech. So in Parliament, respectful, responsible speech where you don't pull any punches on the substance. You set it out. But you say it and you hope, and you set out what you hope to achieve. What you hope to achieve is a marker, an agreement, so that we are better off as a society.
Is there a worry about perception? Because between the election and now, PM Wong in that press conference right after the election, he did say, he was very heartened by how all the political parties responded to foreign interference. And since then we even had SG60, NDP, and we talked a lot about how Singapore, multiracial, multicultural society has done well. But is there worry that perception that bringing this up again kind of like throws us back to that period like where there was a lot of tension in the air about this issue?
Right. My view and our view and our assessment of the post-debate on the ground is this, that by PM Wong welcomed the rejection of foreign endorsements. And as I said, after PAS sort of gave its endorsement to the Workers' Party's Muslim candidates, Mr. Faisal Manap and so on, or criticized the PAP's Muslim candidates, PM Wong came out and said we should reject this. And he hoped that all political parties will. Workers' Party then did, gave a clear rejection. They had made some statements earlier. The clear rejection came subsequently. So he welcomed that. my statement focused on the sequence and said that in future, we don't need to wait for the Prime Minister or the Ministry of Home Affairs and Elections Department to come out with statements. If somebody is endorsing you and it's a foreign political party, we all know that's not right. And we should have enough, to say even if it benefits us, we should be rejecting it. If a preacher says, vote for so-and-so along religious lines, we don't need the government to come in and step in. We should just be rejecting it and rejecting it clearly, immediately. And it was necessary in order to make that point for the future to show what happened, that didn't quite happen during the elections. In the short term, it may be a political gain. Somebody comes and endorses you, therefore people vote for you. You may calculate it to be in your political interest, but it's not in the country's interest. And it was necessary, therefore, to go into that detail so that in future the behavior can be slightly different. And this sort of debate, if you explain why you're doing it, I think most people will understand.
Yeah. But I mean, so when re-watching the statement, when reading the 𝙤𝙤𝙖𝙤𝙀, and I can understand the purpose of saying it in Parliament, so that it's in the 𝙤𝙤𝙖𝙀, so it'll be there forever. I mean, we are in the 𝙤𝙤𝙀 as well, we've been mentioned, and we know for eternity it'll be there. But as I was watching the debate...
actually the purpose was not just the 𝙤𝙤𝙀. 𝙤𝙤𝙀 tracks it. The purpose was...
a marker, right?
Marker, get parliamentarians to agree, and for Singaporeans to understand through this debate, again, how our fundamentals, it's not just theory, but how it should be worked in practice.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I brought up the 𝙤𝙤𝙀 is because I can understand the need to have it documented and the framework laid down and the marker in the sand. But watching the debate, to be honest, at some point it felt, and I mean, for lack of a better word, a bit petty. And I'll give you context why. Because it felt, I mean, even when watching certain things, the exchange between you and Leader of the Opposition, Pritam, it felt like we were going around in circles. And it made me actually lose sight of the more important message. And I just wanted to understand the rationale for the approach. Because I can understand the benefit of laying down in stark detail the dates and the sequence of events. But if you're talking about, like bringing people together, bringing the parliamentarians together, it felt like even if you were not as pointed, the message will still be communicated, the marker will still be laid. Because the moment it got so pointed, and I'm not saying I agree with Leader of the Opposition's arguments, even when I was listening, I was like, okay, where is this going? Because it feels like it's just not the most healthy debate.
I think, unfortunately, you are at least partially right. And the point I will make is this. The general principle that race and religion shouldn't be brought into politics, shouldn't be abused for political purposes, we shouldn't do identity politics, I think was established in the first part of my speech, and anyway, everybody can agree. But the problem with politicians all over the world is that sometimes people pay lip service to it, but in practice, they do something else. And we needed to get into detail and say, this is what happened. There were endorsements and there was no rejection. And then the government had to come out and say it. And then, came the subsequent statements by in this case, the Workers' Party. It wasn't like, you did this wrong, that wrong, that wrong. But just in terms of sequence, you waited for a while. It was... perhaps people calculated, I don't know, that it was beneficial to just keep quiet. And it was necessary to look at that factually, and one has got to be factual. It can't just make allegations or statements. Factually, and say, we hope that in future, this can be done differently, right? So that's a marker. So it was necessary to put it out factually and responsibly and say, next elections and elections after, there will be a collective psyche and understanding that this is what is acceptable in Singapore. Now, it got a bit of an extended discussion because then I was asked for clarifications by Mr. Singh, Mr. Pritam Singh, and he gave a number of reasons why they were not clear enough in the rejection. He said that he didn't know who 𝙤𝙤𝙣 was. And then I had to, the point is his vice chairman of the party, who is a CEC member, most senior Malay leader, obviously knew 𝙤𝙤𝙣. And, there was a discussion between 𝙤𝙤𝙣 and Mr. Faisal Manap and all the Malay candidates from the Workers' Party. So, it's neither here nor there to say I didn't know Mr. 𝙤𝙤𝙣. The question is, should you have rejected? Mr. Faisal Manap knew. Second, Mr. Singh said, there was an asymmetry of information, meaning, he doesn't have the government resources. But the point is really there is an asymmetry of information, I told him, because his party and Mr. Faisal Manap and the candidates know exactly what 𝙤𝙤𝙣 told them. We don't. We only know what 𝙤𝙤𝙣 says he told them and the demands he made, and we know that 𝙤𝙤𝙣 is endorsing them and saying support for Mr. Faisal Manap. So there is an asymmetry of information. But I suggested to him that these reasons may not be adequate. You really just come out and just say, I reject. Or, he talked about government working with the opposition, for example, muddy fields. Muddy fields has got nothing to do with just rejecting outright 𝙤𝙤𝙣's endorsement. So it was a discussion along those lines.
Yeah.
But as leader of the opposition, he has a right to stand up and seek clarifications. And the speaker gave, obviously thought that it was important that as many times as Mr. Pritam Singh put up his hands to speak, he should be allowed to do so. And so it took a fairly lengthy period of time.
Yeah.
I can only answer and I can only follow the proceedings as directed by the speaker. So I don't control the debate.
Yeah.
I can only control what I said in my speech.
Yeah.
So I accept that the discussion between Mr. Singh and myself was a bit lengthy. And maybe some people would have wondered, what has this got to do with the main speech? And I myself wondered, what does muddy fields and asymmetry of information and, all these have got to do with the main point. Main point is there was a demand for voting along racial and religious lines. And we hope there can be an agreement that is offside and there should be immediate and clear rejection.
Yeah. I mean, again, I understand that, but where I started feeling like the debate was going south and not being productive was, you mentioned just now that we want to talk about facts, right? And as much as I don't agree with some of the things that leader of the opposition said, there was one point I think when you use a description of 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙚 about Pritam Singh as being a good politician, and then you came to a logical conclusion that, being vague, being delayed, he might be aware of the political gain. So that was a point where I felt, okay, is that really factual or is that your interpretation? Because it made me question things. And that is where I felt that debate, the way it went, it made me question things like, for example, I think in your statement, there was no mention that Nor 𝙤𝙤𝙣 was a Singaporean. And we have literally had people on our YouTube comments saying, why should a foreigner be allowed to? But he's Singaporean. And for me, a Singaporean based in Malaysia versus a Malaysian based in Malaysia, two very separate things. But that was not clear. And then the other thing, when I see there being questions about what was said at a meeting, not being aware of who was at a meeting, it immediately brings to mind the photos of, Minister Ong and Minister Chee Hong Tat with Su Hai-chin, where on the same day where the pictures was posted on May 6th, I believe, there was a joint statement put out that we don't know them. But then, because this was asked of them, and I get how racial lines, religious lines are very different, but here is Su Hai-chin, a convicted criminal. Am I then allowed as a concerned citizen to say, why was there no categorical rejection of what Su Hai-chin stands for? Because he might be involved in scams that might have affected Singaporeans. So to me, that is a very tangible impact on Singaporeans. So I'm saying that I wish I didn't want to go there, but hearing the debate...
No, I think it's good that you ask. Let me explain.
Yeah.
First of all, 𝙤𝙀𝙘, as ministers, we meet thousands of people.
Yeah.
What they have done, which may not have surfaced yet, or what they may do in the future, we won't know. The fact that we have a dinner doesn't mean that we have agreed with everything they've done. And 𝙤𝙀𝙘𝙀 didn't put out any statement saying they have agreed with this, that, and the other. And if it did, you can be sure the ministers would have said, we have rejected it. Nobody would dare to make such demands of the PAP MPs or ministers. And if they did, the party will require them to say, reject it. Okay. That is the point. That is a critical point. The point is not the meeting. The point is what happens after the meeting. Okay. So what were we supposed to say? The minister said, I don't know who these guys are. We met them, it was in a social occasion. And I don't know their full background. We don't do a, detailed check on everyone we meet. It's not possible. Sometimes, grassroots leaders and others put together dinners where we meet people. I don't know the background of many of them. But if anybody, regardless of background, asks me, agree, I'm going to ask you to agree to these demands, and in return I will pay you some money, or I will ask people to vote for you. What do you think the answer should be, and what do you think the answer would be? That is the point. So Mr. Faisal Manab obviously knew who 𝙤𝙗 was. Mr. Faisal Manab meets 𝙤𝙗 with 4 other candidates. Demands, I don't know, but he says, 𝙤𝙗 says that these are his demands, and Workers' Party is taking him seriously. Only the Workers' Party knows what was discussed. In those circumstances, I think in the interest of Singapore, you should just reject those demands. Just like if any such demand, either financial or personal or benefit to 𝙤𝙀𝙘𝙀 had been made of the ministers, they should reject. But no such allegation is made. 𝙤𝙀𝙀𝙀 doesn't say he made any such demands. So let's be clear, the 2 examples are completely different. If anybody comes to me and makes a demand of such a nature along voting lines, religious lines, racial lines, financial lines, monetary lines, there is only one answer. That is the point we are trying to make. So it is no answer to say, I didn't reject because I didn't know who he was. But your vice chairman knows and he met with them. And obviously, Workers' Party knows what was discussed. You keep quiet. In those circumstances, it leads to a lot of questions because, Mr. Lau knows Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh knows politics. If somebody says, I'm a preacher, vote for Mr. Singh's party along Muslim lines, along Islamic lines, or along Chinese lines, you know what it means. And I am saying it should be rejected. Mr. Singh knows what it means. Mr. Singh knows that, and if he keeps quiet, it's not because of oversight. It's not because of oversight. And, actually we didn't need to get even there. We only got there because Mr. Singh gave all these answers. And then I had to respond. If up front there's been a simple acceptance, yes, it should have been rejected. And we move on. And in future, we will do so. That's the end of the story.
But just one follow-up to the earlier point, because I could say the same thing about you. Minister Shan, you've been in politics for so long, you know politics. And him not saying no 𝙤𝙗 is a Singaporean is a calculated move. So then how would you respond to that? Because, and that's what, it's a place where I would rather not go. But if it's being done towards an individual, it feels like, okay, you're opening up these sort of questions.
Because, it's so obvious. In the case of PAS, we talk about foreign influence. In the case of 𝙤𝙗, we just talk about religious influence. We don't say he is a foreigner. We talk about him playing religious politics, racial politics. We say that about PAS, but we add in that it's a foreign party as well. So, this guy is based in Malaysia, but Our point is, if it's a foreigner, I identify for you. If it's not a foreigner, I don't say that. It's assumed.
But, yeah.
I mean, on the point of what happened during the meeting, I think Mr. Singh also used the strongest language I've heard him saying that, 𝙁𝙗𝙗 gate crashed the meeting, right?
Yes.
And after that, he did say this. He didn't, even he doesn't agree with what he says, and a lot he was thinking about the Streisand effect of bringing up 𝙁𝙗𝙗, because even for us, we did not know who 𝙁𝙗𝙗 was before the GE. So isn't there some calculation that, okay, we don't agree with this guy, we don't want to have to surface his views to the world and make him.
But he is putting out a Facebook post on the 23rd and 24th. You can assume that it is going around at least towards some people. And if the party had come out and rejected it, would that have been better for Singapore? Or do you keep quiet? If supposing he had said there, or the PAP, vote for the PAP, PAP's Muslims are better, what do you think the PAP ought to do? I think Streisand effect is not a good enough answer. It's really, if these principles are important, we stand for them. And we reject them outright.
Okay.
And the past is a guide for us to discuss in order to agree on the future. It's not, so this happened. The debate could have been ended very quickly if we had just said, okay, it should have been quick, it should have been fast, we should have clarified, and this will happen in future. Then the debate is over. But when we talk about Streisand effect and we talk about asymmetry of information and so on, we have to also make sure in future people understand that these may not be good enough reasons, that this is too important an issue for you to think of those as reasons for not responding, and that we all should just respond. And if you think that it's important that we classify, every time we talk about somebody, if he's Singaporean, we must say Singaporean, it will extend. I mean, that is a point that I will note. For us, in our mind, as we are discussing, if he is a foreigner, we say he's a foreigner. Otherwise, just assume this is a Singaporean. There's no sort of, detailed thinking along those lines.
I mean, I would say only because we have literally had, as of yesterday, I think a day, like shortly after our YouTube video came out talking about the issue, someone did say, why should we let a foreigner based in Malaysia meet local politicians?
But there will always be small groups of people who, I'm sure there are other parts where in my speech I've said and people have misconstrued, but I accept what you say.
Yeah.
It's just that I've referred to many others in my speech, I think, other people, and I don't go and say they are Singaporeans.
Yeah, I mean, I hope like that can be taken into account in future, because I remember when we covered it during the elections, it was a revelation for me also to know that, oh, this is a Singaporean guy speaking.
Yeah, so I thought it was all, settled previously.
Oh no, like even anecdotally, like over the past few days, asking friends, and I know this is anecdotal, it's not common knowledge that he's Singaporean. And to me, there's a certain nuance there, because it feels like he has a lived experience that many of us have had. How did those elements come
understand.
up? Yeah, and I mean, along the lines of like, identifying, be it nationality or race, also wanted to understand, was it a concern for you before you gave the speech, the reaction from the Malay Muslim community on how the debate went? Because even the PAP MPs, I think MP 𝙁𝙗𝙗 and MP Hazlina, they brought up the point that the 𝙁𝙗𝙗 brought up the point that, okay, it seems to imply that the Malay Muslim community is responsible for this, and Hazlina clarified that as opposed to, them being just victims, they rose above. Because I thought the way you ended the speech, talking about the pioneer generation being afforded the land in Malaya, not taking it, that to me, it is very powerful. Because it implies that the Malay Muslim community is not monolithic and they have agency. But listening to the first part...
Insofar as they are monolithic, they have a very nationalist Singaporean approach.
Yeah, but that's why
as I answer, let me just summarize on your previous question, because you had a lead up just before you went into this question. So in summary, the speech was to set out our fundamentals and to say where we stand. The second part of the speech is to say what happened in the elections, and one had to go into the details. But the key point that I wanted coming out from the speech is when people, either religious leaders come in and abuse religion and try and inject it into elections, race or religion, or foreigners come in, we all should stand together and we should reject it, and even if we think it's going to benefit us. So that was the key point. And I showed that by reference to what exactly happened. And I did say, in this case, the Workers' Party came out after the government came out and said that this is no can do. And it's a marker, and the main learning point is in future, hopefully, even if it's beneficial, even if you calculate it to be benefiting you, first of all, don't play this racial and religious politics. Second, reject it outright and don't wait for the government. The government shouldn't have to intervene. We all, as Singaporeans, political parties, we know enough. Experienced politicians, just reject it. The length of the debate is not within my control. It depends on what Mr. Singh and others said. And I've explained to you some of the reasons he gave. And I wanted to explain to him and to the House and to Singaporeans, hopefully the takeaway is the reasons are not adequate for not rejecting race and religious politics. It should have been clearer and it should have been faster. Not wait for the government. The reasons aren't good enough. If we didn't debate that, if we didn't deal with that, then the next time you're not sure whether that marker is there or whether it will again get into this. Which is why in my speech I talked about people may agree on the broad framework, but still in practice get into race and religious politics. Okay? Now, as regards the Malay community and whether it is spotlighted, I actually said it's not the first time a race has been targeted. The Chinese community has been targeted frequently. So it's nothing special about the Malay community being targeted. And they are not the only ones being targeted. The Indian community has not been targeted as much because numerically they don't make up, the other two communities are bigger. Of course, the Chinese are the biggest. And the race card has been played with the Chinese for a long time, as I've said in my speech. And whenever people try to manipulate and play the race card, the race that is subject to that is actually the victim. I mean, that's the word I used. So in this case, people were trying to manipulate the Malay Muslim ground. But I also said, as MP Haslinda pointed out, the Malays as a community largely rose above it. I wouldn't want to characterize them as victims. They were the target, but they are not the only target. In the past, others have been the targets. So that's a point that we need to understand. There's nothing, Malay community is specifically being targeted. In this elections, yes. But in other elections, others have been targeted. Yeah.
So then when thinking about the approach also, how do you weigh then the potential interpretation? Like, let's say even the MPs within Parliament ask some concerns about that community. Because that kind of feels like it opens up, you have to clarify, and even in recent days, there was the statement put out by PAS in Malaysia and MHA's response.
Yes.
So it feels like that approach, okay, I can understand why it's beneficial, but if it's opening up all these other conversations that need to be had or need to be clarified, how do you weigh that?
You have to have these conversations because, the PAS is targeting our Malay community.
Yeah.
Deros was targeting our Malay community. And you have to deal with it. Just like if somebody had targeted our Chinese community, as in the past, we will deal with it too. Mm-hmm. And it will open up these conversations. In 1960s, the Chinese community was regularly targeted. Unfortunately, this is part of politics. You have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we've built enough immunity within our country that when we have these discussions, particularly like in a forum in Parliament, where we can talk responsibly, people can take it and understand and in the context.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, it is not the fault of the Malay community that they're being targeted. They are the target, but it's not their fault. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the context that you laid out, and for example, saying that it only took 10 months from the GE prior to the 1964 racial riots for everything to unravel. But in some sense, don't you think as a people that we have matured as a democracy, and that, I mean, even the results of this election kind of are a rejection of like identity politics, right? So is there a need to bring this up and really paint it as this big danger that everything can just fall apart after all these years?
First of all, therefore, it requires you to understand how we got here by being very, very watchful and alert about any attempt to inject race and religion. And then second, you have to ask, do we need to continue to be watchful and alert as we go forward? And in order to assess that, you also need to see what's happening in other countries. You look at many countries in Western Europe, you look at America, I think in the 70s and 80s, you would have said they are far more stable than us because they have size, they have depth, they have bigger economies, bigger populations, strong and stable. You look today, they are driven by race or ethnic or identity politics. It's very rampant. Yeah, I gave examples. In Netherlands, the right-wing party says close all mosques and ban Muslims from holding public office or elected leadership. And in the region too, there are people who think along very racial and religious lines. Now, let me ask you, if somebody takes one step beyond the line, say, oh, well, we are in a strong position. What does it matter? It's only one step. Leave it be. We are strong. Then the next time somebody else takes 3 steps, because one step is possible, 3 steps. We say, oh, it's only when it reaches about 20 steps that is a problem. This is only 3. But it then grows exponentially because others see 3 steps being taken and there's some dividends in racial and religious politics. Everybody rushes in. And immediately before, it's 15 steps. So where do you draw the line? You keep to the line that you have drawn. And every time you cross it, even by 1 step, is it better that we remind ourselves the line has been crossed and say, hey, let's not cross this line?
Do you feel that the line was crossed in this instance?
It was clearly crossed.
So that means what you're saying is that there was no other way to deliver the same message. For example, hypothetically, really reiterating the need to categorically reject any foreign influence, but without retracing the steps in great detail. And I'm asking only because as a viewer, as a concerned citizen, by the end, I already explained how I felt about it. Is there no way that you think it could have gone? Or there are too many things that you feel, even if it's going to be tough for people to listen, even if in this day and age, people get the wrong idea from snippets and headlines and all that, that's just the nature of the...
It's whichever way you have put it in. If you had been very general without referring to what actually happened, people will say, why is the speech being made? What happened? And nobody will be the wiser because everybody will just say, yeah, I agree in theory. But what are you trying to do? You're trying to understand what happened. You're trying to bring across what happened. And you're saying, take our lessons by reference to what happened so that it doesn't get repeated. So each of these are lessons for us, for the future, to build a collective immunity. Now, some people will understand in the age of modern communications, the nature of things. There will be people who misrepresent what was said in Parliament. There will be people who don't read everything that was said in Parliament. There will be people who only catch snatches and then form their viewpoints. Yeah. These are all part and parcel of the issues facing communications. You just have to live with them. But meanwhile, what does that mean? That you don't communicate, you don't discuss, you don't put it out, or you set an aim that is principle on which we can all agree, as I said in my speech, but we must also carry it out in practice. And it wasn't carried out in practice in the last GE. And let's hope, these are the ways in which it wasn't carried out. Let's hope that, this is a frame for us to understand, accept, and in future, we will do better.
And I mean, I can also understand that, but about the exact wording that is used, it felt like there was an emphasis on if you don't say the word reject, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Is that just something that from
no,
your
I
legal
think
background?
rejection. It's got to be. People need to know where you stand. I mean, that's the bottom line. And as I told Mr. Singh on PAS, when after the Prime Minister invited everybody to reject, he came out and he said, I don't remember the precise words, but it was very clear. I think he said, I reject, we don't agree to this foreign interference, we don't need their support and so on. On Deros, you remember the context is he says the Workers' Party is taking me seriously, they met with me, these are my demands, and Mr. Faisal Manab is like this, vote for him, he's a better Muslim and so on. So he has come out with 2 posts. Total silence on the other side. If you're the voter, what would you think? It leaves questions. It's not clear. If you don't say anything, it's not clear. I think that much we can agree. Then there was a government statement issued saying, without mentioning Deros, that we should keep away from race and religion in politics. Then there was a statement issued by the WP which said, actually, we have not come into any agreement with him. We have not made him any promises. And we have not, we have given him no commitments. To me, my reading of it is, it was very carefully worded and it's not a rejection of his endorsement. I haven't agreed with you on your demands. You are endorsing me, but I haven't yet agreed to your demands. If he watching it might say, oh, well, that means that maybe in future I might agree to some of your demands. I haven't yet agreed. I haven't yet committed. I haven't yet said yes, but I haven't said no either. I haven't given any commitments. So I just felt that you know how to reject because you rejected PAS. You should have similarly done this. But anyway, the key is in future, don't leave voters guessing. Just come out and just reject it. It is an important point about where we stand.
Yeah.
And we should be clear with voters and we should be clear with clerics who seek to abuse religion.
Yeah.
So it would, regardless of party, is that something you demand of anyone, like
yes,
from the
of
PAP
course.
as
This
well?
is not for party. I mean, it's bad for the country. And therefore, it's the obligation of all the parties.
And I mean, is that also something like almost a call to action for Singaporeans? If we see something, maybe not race and religion, ultimate transparency and the party's thoughts on something that is dear to the hearts of Singaporeans is something that we have right as a citizen to demand for, to expect from particular parties.
Absolutely. I think so.
So if I would ask you right now, how divided or united Singapore is, do you think? Because the world around us, it feels weird. But over the past, few years, did the state of the world outside really inform very significantly your approach to the statement? How have you seen the past few years change Singapore as a society?
I see the world around us, and the lessons I draw is that societies are getting increasingly more and more polarized. More divided, more polarized, less harmonious, more violent. And lesson number 2, it means that it can happen here too. Because we are not a special breed. It is just that we have done things differently. Lesson number 3, we have to fight harder because it's a tide. The tide comes through the internet, the tide comes through international opinions, the tide comes through, many different ways. And you need to fight that tide, and you need to be very alert. And the Singaporeans have a deep responsibility. Politicians have a even greater responsibility. So it is our duty to say this one was beyond the line, and next time let's hope that it doesn't get there. If we are lax about it, then the line will move.
So if I were to ask you your general philosophy towards, fracturing of societies through racial lines, there are two ways, right? One is the kumbaya, where we're all Singaporean, let's not look at race. And one is really highlighting that we are all different races, and that is the reason we need to come together. Because even if you ask me, sometimes I feel, why can't we just focus on the things that bind us as opposed to the things that divide us? But what's your take on that? Feels like you believe more the latter, and correct me if I'm wrong, that by highlighting the differences, that's the only way we can come together.
Not quite. Not quite. The differences are there. Our skin colors are different, our cultures are different, and our mother tongues are often different to the extent that we speak our mother tongues. The issue is, do you recognize these, or do you say, supposing we say everyone assimilates into one culture, is that possible? You look at the different religions. Are you going to tell the Hindu and the Muslim and the Christian assimilate into one religion? It's not possible. Are you going to say, I'm not going to allow all these 3 different languages and 3 different heritages and all the other heritages? I'm going to have one heritage. Is that even feasible or possible? Not really. So we have never believed in this melting pot that creates one identity. Our approach is, we don't force people to assimilate. We encourage everyone to be proud of their heritage, which means you must talk about race, religion, and you must support it. You must encourage the cultures, and state, in fact, puts money there in teaching second language and having these festivals and supporting the different heritages and cultures. At the same time, we also say, hey, let's take pride in our Singaporean identity. And let's not use race or religion to divide us, including or in particular in politics. If we want to fight in politics, we talk about policies. We talk about how to improve the community. Let's not do, I'm Indian, you're Indian, vote for me. I'm Chinese, you're Chinese, vote for me. Or if you vote for me, the Chinese population will move up like this and I will squeeze the minorities. Let's not do that. So it's not, so the government's approach is, let's accept the reality of the different races and religions and cultures. Let's be celebratory about it. And at the same time, let's overlay that with the unique Singaporean identity. But that's not going to stop people every now and then, or quite frequently, talking about race and religion and so on. And we need to provide safe spaces for that. Where, as I said in Parliament, if you allowed the US style, I can come and criticize you and run you down and so on the basis of race or religion. We don't allow that. But you must allow spaces, and it's not as if it's government curated. You, 2 of you can go and form a society and, get people to come together and talk about race. You can talk about race and religion here, not with a minister, but with anybody else. The NGOs can go and form their groups to talk about race and religion. So it's a free society. People can talk about these issues. What we say is, have a care. Have a care because there are 3 major ethnic groups, but one group is the biggest. And the moment anyone pushes aggressively, all the other groups will push aggressively. So have a care in how you discuss it.
And how worried are you about foreign interference, really playing on the ethnicities in Singapore as well?
I'm very concerned about it, and not just on the Malay community, but also the Chinese and the Indian communities.
Yeah.
This is something we've always been concerned about. And remember, Singapore is, in conventional terms, Singapore is we are able to defend ourselves. Our army is first class. SAF is very strong. But the recent history shows that the internet and dividing societies along whatever fault lines there are within society is a cheap and low-cost way of destabilizing societies. And race and religion obviously one. So outsiders using race and religion to destabilize our society is a much cheaper way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, going forward, is there anything you would like to say to Singaporeans in particular? Like, because there's one part in Parliament that, what parties should do. But, and I guess that's where maybe I also was coming from, that why can't we just think of ourselves as Singaporean? But I accept that, we do need to acknowledge the differences. Is there anything
we can work towards that?
Yeah.
And then the whole idea is enlarge the common space and reduce our differences. But I think it'll be very difficult to, for example, on religion, tell people, we have to support people's separate religions and religious behaviors. You can't say,
they can't layer on something.
You can layer on a Singaporean identity, which we have. But they must be able to practice their religions, and we guarantee the freedom of religion in our constitution.
Okay. And I mean, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. We know that you have a very busy schedule, and if you want to come back in future to talk about anything, you're always welcome.
Please, yes.
We do have the one question that we ask all our guests. No matter what we talk about in the podcast, as tough the questions are, the one question is the one Shiok Thing of the week. And I mean, of course, we would like to go on and talk about many other issues, but we have the one Shiok Thing.
Yes.
Because we know you have a time. What is your one Shiok Thing, Terence?
Yes, actually, it's a throwback. I recently watched Mary Poppins, the original movie from 1964, for the first time. And, it's one of those things where you know what goes on in the story, but to actually watch it yourself and experience it for yourself, that's when I realized, it's actually, there's a social statement, in the movie that really talks about the difficulty of fatherhood, versus the pressures of society that society places on you. It talks a lot about social inequality in society. And all my life, I always just thought Mary Poppins was this nanny with an umbrella prancing around singing. But actually, it has a much deeper social statement than that. Like a lot of movies of that time, like the 60s and 70s.
So you watched the movie?
Yeah, the actual movie, which is, I think, on Disney Plus now. So yeah, it was just a revelation for me, because I have not watched something from what I thought was my childhood, and then now with the lenses of an adult, appreciating it for what it's trying to say about society.
It's like The Simpsons, you watch it with a different lens.
Maybe. But Mary Poppins, I really just blew my mind that way.
I mean, mine is also a throwback to something from the past. I chanced upon a video put out 3 years ago, I think, by CNA, with the reunion of the Phua Chu Kang cast. So Phua Chu Kang is one of my all-time favorite shows, Singaporean or otherwise. And it was just listening to the actors come together and reminisce about how special that show was. So it came out 3 years ago, I think. It was a 20+ minute video, but yeah, it's just a reminder of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Minister?
I haven't had time to, watch a movie for a while, nor read a book of any length for a while. I'm in the middle of one, but I wouldn't call it one Shiok Thing. I'll maybe share two thoughts. The book I'm reading is about the history of the Balkans, which is not everybody's idea of a Shiok Thing. But, recently Diane Keaton passed away.
Yeah.
It was in the news. And when I was a teenager, she was a superstar.
Yeah.
Annie Hall and the Godfather movies.
Yeah.
So her movies, I think if people watch, particularly some of those that I mentioned, that would probably easily qualify as one Shiok Thing. And her sense of style, and she brought a completely different sense of style, a feminine style, and her very quirky nature on screen. The second thing, which is very accessible, is in the absence of being able to read thick books or serious books, and the snatches of time that one gets at night, comics are great. And my particular favorite, Asterisk and Obelisk. I'm rereading, every now and then I'll read a few pages. And I will recommend any of them. The wit and the fun, and it's light. So just take one and read. And your evening is made. One that I've referred to in the past in speeches is Asterisk and the Secret Weapon. It deals with gender issues in a very fun way.
So a few pages a night.
Yeah, but thanks for the tribute to Diane Keaton. I mean, Annie Hall is my favorite movie of all time.
Right.
So it is mean a lot to all the people who love that film as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, thanks so much for sharing not just that, your thoughts and taking our questions as well.
Yeah.
And to everyone listening, hope you found that useful. And Minister Shan, we would always welcome you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thank you.